U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is urging leaders in South Sudan to stop fighting and start talking. He's dispatched Special Envoy Donald Booth to the world's newest nation. Booth's job is to help arrange talks between South Sudan's president and the vice president he fired in July. President Salva Kiir says last Sunday's outbreak of violence was started by forces loyal to the former vice president. Tens of thousands of civilians have been forced to flee the fighting, which is being waged largely along ethnic lines.
The latest clashes began on Monday when President Kiir accused Mr. Machar of a failed coup, something he denies. In the unrest that's followed, gangs from the newer ethnic group of Mr. Machar have been fighting Dinkas, the majority group to which Mr. Kiir belongs. At least 500 people have been killed in the violence, and more than 34,000 have taken refuge at UN compounds. On Friday, African mediators said they'd held productive talks with the president, but the UN says there's been no let-up in the fighting, and now the US has announced it's sending a special envoy to help with peace talks. As the envoy prepares to fly in to help with the crisis, the remains of the two peacekeepers are being flown back to their final resting place in India.
There are currently 4,000 UN combat troops in the world's newest country, and with the violence spreading and intensifying, it's felt that's nowhere near enough. But the UN says increasing the size of its peacekeeping force is not the solution.
Ultimately, what has to happen is the fighting has to stop. There has to be a political solution.
The French ambassador admits the international body is in uncharted territory.
Suddenly, we are facing a totally new situation with a sort of massive threat. So it's really, we have to adjust our system, our dispositif, which means that we have, in particular, to bring soldiers from the quiet zones to the zones which are dangerous.
The UN Security Council has urged two fighting groups in South Sudan to immediately halt violence and seek a solution through dialogue. The Council released a statement after an emergency meeting on Friday.
The political crisis could lead to a political civil war if we don't solve very quickly the political crisis through dialogue.
The United Nations says 35,000 civilians are taking shelter at UN peacekeepers' bases around the country. It says armed groups are close to some bases. Fighting erupted last Sunday in the capital, Juba, between rival military groups supporting the president and the former vice president. The clashes left 500 people dead. Armed people, believed to be from the former vice president's ethnic community, Nuer, attacked ethnic Dinka people linked to the president who were taking shelter at a UN base there.